I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I think it's high time someone at a streaming service said, hey, you know what would make a good television series? That Kevin Costner film where he played a serial killer, Mr. Brooks. Now, I'll be the first to admit, Mr. Brooks didn't make that big of an impact when it first came out back in 2007, but I still feel like it's a film worth checking out, especially for Kevin Costner's performance as the main character who plays this successful publishing executive who's also a devoted family man, and just so happens to be a notorious serial killer known as the Thumbprint Killer. Now, things get complicated for Mr. Brooks as he is confronted by a man played by Dane Cook, known as Mr. Smith, who has evidence of one of his latest killings and decides to blackmail him. And he doesn't want to go to the police, but he does want to have Mr. Brooks take him on one of his next murders. And on top of everything else, Mr. Brooks now has to worry about whether or not his daughter has inherited his dark homicidal urges. Obviously, the big hook for Mr. Brooks was the idea of Kevin Costner, of all actors, playing a serial killer. I mean, not Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, not the man who was once powerless to pass up any film involving baseball, not Dances with Wolves. But damn it if this wasn't one of the man's best performances, especially at a time in his career when you would think to himself, okay, this is where he's gonna sort of be on autopilot for certain things. But with this, he kind of just lives in this role and really revels in playing this conniving, cunning, calculated serial killer. This is a man that is just having way too much fun and having way too much of an erotic reaction whenever he kills someone. It's actually kind of unnerving, but damn it if it doesn't just sell you on what this character is, and it's just incredible to watch. Honestly, so much of this character works because Kevin Costner is just absolutely committed to making Mr. Brooks as unsettling and unnerving as possible, but at the same time, very charismatic, very multi-layered, and you just want to learn more about why this character is the way he is. The other factor to what I think makes Mr. Brooks work so well as a film is the chemistry that Kevin Costner has with William Hurt, who's playing Marshall, which is this dark side to Mr. Brooks that only he sees. This is basically his adult imaginary friend, and this is the person who sort of compels him to kill and make sure that he's being careful about it whenever he does it. And you almost get this paternal quality from him, and it makes for these great scenes where there's a lot of tension between Mr. Brooks and Marshall, but you also have moments where Marshall is very sympathetic and nurturing, and it's something that's very important to this character who is trying to suppress this dark side in him. I think the way these two characters balance each other out is just pitch perfect, and especially with the inclusion of Marshall, because you have those quieter moments, but you also have those moments where he's just absolutely boisterous and manic and angry. And even though he is a figment of Mr. Brooks' imagination, you watch these scenes play out and think to yourself, oh my God, is Mr. Brooks going to be in danger because of Marshall? And it's like, no, it's just a voice in his head, but your mind is doing all of this work to really make you think that Marshall is more dangerous than he is. This is something that can definitely play well on a streaming service if they made it into a series. And I know that there are a lot of people, especially now, that are kind of looking at the violence we have on television and whether or not that's affecting violence out in the real world. And I know especially after the whole Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars incident, people are very much on the high horse of violence is never the answer. We have to be better than that. And I'm just thinking to myself, please shut up. Yes, this is about to be a little bit of a soapbox moment, especially in light of some filmmakers wanting to sign a petition to have a serious conversation about the effects of gun violence in entertainment and how that's affecting gun violence in the real world right now, and I feel like that's a stupid conversation to have, because at the end of the day, you could be making very sensible gun laws that would limit the access of firearms to a lot of people, and it's not an issue that you want to lump in with mental illness or anything like that. You can just focus on that, but I know the money from the NRA is just too damn good. Bottom line, it's frustrating when you see so many people wanting to go in all of these other directions to address these so-called issues as far as violence in our society, especially gun violence, and they want to do everything except look at what is the big issue. And it's a big issue that obviously a lot of other major developed countries don't have, because they have stricter gun laws than we have here in the States. Point blank, period. Bottom line, whether we want to admit it or not, there are a lot of us that love living vicariously through villains. Don't try and sugarcoat it. Don't try and act like you're better from a moral standpoint than other people. And it's fine, because it's entertainment. And if you're a smart enough person, you know that you can separate entertainment from real life. And obviously a lot of people have been able to do it, so let's kind of cut the bullshit. Now, as far as casting decisions for this speculative Mr. Brooks series, I definitely have a few suggestions. You can call me out for stunt casting all you want, but I think this would actually be brilliant if you cast Mr. Brooks and Marshall with Kiefer Sutherland and Jason Patric, respectively. Yes, this would be a Lost Boys reunion, and you have to admit that while I don't have good ideas often, I consistently have great ones, and this is pretty great, wouldn't you agree? Honestly, I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer, especially with Kiefer Sutherland and his experience as an actor, because he's played dark characters before, and sometimes they're overtly dark, and other times he has to sort of suppress that darkness within him. And I feel like this is a perfect actor that you want to play Mr. Brooks, especially in an episodic television format. On the other side of that, you have Jason Patric, who's done wide range of roles in his career as well, and you kind of get that still boyish charm from him even as an older actor now. But I feel like this is sort of the great thing where you have Jason Patric being the bad influence to Kiefer Sutherland, as opposed to how it was when they were in the Lost Boys together back in the 80s. And while I don't think you'll have that same paternal quality that William Hurt had towards Kevin Costner in the film, you can definitely play it more brotherly between Jason Patric and Kiefer Sutherland, and I think that would work just as well. Now, as far as Mr. Smith, the character blackmailing Mr. Brooks, I feel like you definitely need someone who has a bit of a punchable face. And I just think that having seen a few of the things Shiloh Fernandez is in, especially the Evil Dead remake, I think that that is someone who I watch and think, I want to punch that dude. But at the same time, he's got that sort of pretty bad boy quality to him that I think will work well as a nice counterbalance to Kiefer Sutherland and the performance he could bring to Mr. Brooks. And all of that can really work out well, because you want to dislike this character, but you also kind of want him to stick around at least for a whole season, if not multiple seasons. Honestly, you could just throw a pair of Mickey Mouse ears and hit any random Disney kid who's about to age out of that demographic and want to move on to something darker. And I think I'm probably going to go with Peyton List from Cobra Kai, because one, I love her in Cobra Kai, and also I think she's got enough of that girl next door quality, but you also have that little undertone of her having some dark urges that I think is really going to work well for the character. Obviously, Mr. Brooks' wife Emma is going to need to play a bigger role in the series as opposed to what she played in the film, where she was completely oblivious to everything that was going on. And yes, obviously you have that whole will she figure it out or won't she if we were to make this a series. And again, I'm going to employ a little bit of stunt casting and reunite Kiefer Sutherland with his former 24 co-star Annie Wersching, because I feel like one, we were kind of shortchanged on that relationship in that series, and I want to see those two actors work together again. And she was phenomenal this past season on Picard as the Borg Queen, and I've just always had a thing for this actress, and I think that would really work as far as chemistry between her and Sutherland, and just seeing what goes through her head as she's kind of discovering these things about her husband and maybe even her daughter. Now, if there is one thing that definitely felt a bit out of place in the original Mr. Brooks film, I would say it would have to be Demi Moore as Detective Tracy Atwood. Now, of course, she is playing a police detective who is investigating the thumbprint killer, but at the same time, the film felt a need to employ a number of subplots with this character and just kind of overcomplicate her. She's got a younger husband who she's trying to divorce, who wants her for her money because she comes from old money and has a massive inheritance, so there's that. But then you also have this completely unrelated subplot of one of the perps that she put away years ago having escaped prison and now plans to track her down to kill her, and it just kind of dragged down the pace of the film and almost made it feel like a completely different film from what it was in general. So I feel like those subplots could definitely breathe more in a series, and I don't know, I feel like someone like Kate Beckinsale would probably make a feast out of this type of role. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you've got your own thoughts or opinions on this video, please go ahead and leave a comment in the section below. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit the notification bell, share this video with your friends and family, and if you'd like to keep up to date on more At Random videos, you can click the subscribe button right over here.